My friends, I'm Bishop Joe Bailey-Wells, Bishop of the Anglican Communion, Deputy Secretary General. I'm not a Kazakh, but today I am proud to wear a Kazakh waistcoat and welcome you to this second Forum of Young Religious Leaders. It began last year, it's a new idea, and it is tremendous already to see how it has grown. Now, on a practical level, I hope you have translation if you wish for it. I do just need to flag that we will be speaking in different languages as we prefer, so you will need your headphones at some stage this morning. Now, before any further ado, it does seem unusual for me as a foreigner and a visitor to welcome our speaker from the Senate this morning, who will open the Young Leaders Forum, but it's my pleasure to invite to the platform the head of the Secretariat of the Congress of the Leaders of World Religions, Chairman and Speaker of the Senate of the Parliament of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Maulen Ashimbayev. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Distinguished participants and guests of the forum, dear friends, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Astana, the world's youngest capital. Yesterday, we opened the VIII Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions and held truly meaningful and productive discussions. We are delighted to continue the dialogue today at the Forum of Young Religious Leaders, dedicating our efforts to the most critical issues of our shared future. Just 1 year ago, we held the inaugural forum, which brought together young religious leaders, youth movements representatives, scholars and experts in sustainable development, IT, culture, media from around the world. That first forum clearly demonstrated how vital the participation of young leaders is in addressing the global challenges humanity faces today. We live in an era of unprecedented complexity and contradiction. At the same time, the world is more interconnected than ever before. Scientific and technological advances are spreading at breathtaking speed. Yet, alongside them, misunderstanding, polarization, and mistrust among people and nations continue to grow. We face the destructive consequences of global climate change and environmental disasters, while ongoing wars and conflicts threaten to engulf the planet. Humanity is therefore in urgent need of new ideas and approaches to meet the pressing challenges of our time. And it's you, the young leaders, who will be called upon to confront the toughest problems of the 21st century. This can only be achieved through open, honest, and trust-based dialogue. It is vital that we preserve and strengthen the interreligious dialogue and cooperation we have built so far. Kazakhstan consistently promotes the principles of peaceful coexistence and respect for cultural diversity, knowing that lasting international stability is impossible without mutual trust. As President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has emphasized, in these difficult times, we must build bridges, not walls. This is a conscious choice of our nation, a choice forged in hardship. We endured the national tragedy of the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site. Over 45 years, 450 nuclear tests, both aerial and underground, were conducted, leaving deep scars on generations and inflicting terrible environmental damage. We also witnessed the Aral Sea catastrophe, where indifference, miscalculations, and mismanagement of water resources at the Soviet times led to the disappearance of one of the world's largest lakes. These experiences taught us that closed-mindedness and irresponsible decisions come at too high price. That's why we consistently advocate for trust, open dialogue, and a shared sense of responsibility for the future. Distinguished participants, we meet at a very difficult time. According to the United Nations, more than 120 million people have been displaced, and nearly 300 million suffer from acute hunger. Behind every number is a human life, a human story. And all of this unfolding in a year when the world marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Yet, despite the tragic and horrific lessons of the 20th century, we continue to witness conflicts that claim the lives of innocent people: men, women, children, and the elderly. Despite this, we continue to rely on diplomacy and believe in dialogue as the only reliable path to resolving conflicts. Yes, it is not easy. Dialogue requires patience and a willingness to listen, to yield, and to compromise. It requires the humanity to ask questions before drawing conclusions. It requires silence in order to hear the voice of truth, reminding us that what unites us is far greater than what divides us. And yet, while we speak of this today, there are those working tirelessly to convince us of the opposite, that our differences are too deep, too fundamental. We are told to fear those who speak other languages, worship another god, or simply look different from us. We are convinced that a clash of civilizations is inevitable. Our world is full of this noise, but we have gathered here today because we believe the opposite. We know with certainty that we are all united by shared human values: compassion, love, and mercy. We know that in every corner of the world, in mosques, synagogues, churches, and temples, people of different faiths live out those values. They feed the hungry, help the needy, and protect the vulnerable. Whether Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Jew, they extend a helping hand to those in need. And they do this not because the law compels them, but because their hearts call them to do so. This is what unites us, our humanity. We may speak different languages and pray in different words, but we all know that love for our children, respect for our elders, compassion for the weak, and the pursuit of peace and justice are universal. We also know that no great achievement of humanity belongs to a single nation or civilization. The technological breakthroughs and scientific discoveries are the result of the mutual exchange of knowledge between different countries and peoples. Different cultures, languages, and traditions do not divide us. They enrich us. They give us the chance to learn from one another, to inspire one another, and to expand our horizons. That's why your voices, your ideas, and your leadership are so important today. It is your generation that in 10 or 15 years will bear responsibility for the state of peace and development, both within nations and across the globe. Distinguished participants, dear friends, for more than 20 years, the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions has brought spiritual leaders together. The Forum of Young Leaders is a living continuation of that mission. Today we unite the wisdom of the elders with the energy of the young to chart a path toward a more just, stable, and sustainable world. We understand that we will not solve all problems today. But if we conclude this forum with a firm commitment to dialogue and with the willingness to see the humanity in every person, then we will already have taken an important step toward a better future. Despite all difficulties of our time, we are firmly convinced that the future does not belong to those who build walls and divide people into us and them. The future belongs to those who can transform differences, not into a source of fear, but into a source of strength. The future belongs to those who know how to build bridges. I believe such people have gathered here today. Those who choose hope over fear, dialogue over silence, and unity over division. May this forum not only be a space for dialogue, but also a starting point for action, for projects, initiatives, and solutions that can truly change our world. Once again, I thank all participants for coming to Kazakhstan. You are always welcome here. I wish everyone at this forum the courage to think boldly, the bravery to act decisively, and to strength to believe that the world can indeed be changed. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashenbayev, for your round endorsement of this forum. So the Young Persons Forum is part of the Congress for leaders of world and traditional religions. But I want to say at the outset this morning, the rules of operation don't have to function like the more formal Congress that took place yesterday. But there is one rule. This is for young leaders. As I look out, I see many, many leaders, and I take it that some of the older leaders are here to listen and learn from the younger leaders. So I do want to, from here on, prioritize the younger voices. As you will see on our platform, we have younger people. I think younger means under 40. So people in their 20s and 30s, when we have Q&A, you should have priority when it comes to the microphone. So before I introduce our first speaker, I just want to offer a little experiment. I want to ask you a question and invite you to participate using your phone to reply. And if this works on the screen, we will see all the replies of those who are in this room. The question I have for you, I want you to dream. I want you to reflect on what you long for in the next generation of religious leaders. What 3 qualities do you most value? What 3 qualities would you most like to see in the next generation of religious leaders? I'd love you to answer that question with 3 words. In English, if possible, because it will be hard for the Mentimeter to function in multiple languages. Please dream. Please be idealistic. I want to say, as an older religious leader, we are unafraid of your constructive criticism. In other words, you may do differently. What would you like to imagine? use the QR code that is behind me on the screen, and I hope in a few moments, as speakers are speaking, the Mentimeter will develop and we will see your answers on the screen. Again, what 3 qualities would you like to describe in the next generation of young religious leaders? Okay, we'll come back to that later. Now it's time for me to introduce our first of 5 speakers in this first session this morning. And our first speaker is Ivan Avanov. He is chairman of the executive board of the International Center Alliance of Civilization and associate professor at the International Balkan University, which is in North Macedonia. Ivan, you're very welcome. To sit or to use the podium as you wish.
Honorable Chairman of the Senate of the Parliament of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Azimbayev, Honorable Chair of this important panel, distinguished participants, dear friends. Every generation inherits not only the dreams and aspirations of those who come before, but also their unfinished struggles and lessons from their failures. At times, or to be more precise, the current time, humanity fails the weight of what the Germans call Geschichtsmüde, meaning a weariness of history, or in simple terms, a fatigue from conflicts and failures repeated too often. That said, we gather here today as heirs of both the hope of harmony and the burden of history's unfinished work. If peace were the work of only one community, it would remain fragile. Furthermore, if peace belonged to only one tradition, it would be narrow in scope. Humanity's greatest tragedies have always come when one group believed peace was theirs alone to define. And the Honorable Chairman said that the clash of civilizations is inevitable, but I must admit that now we have clashes within each of the civilizations. Peace, like truth, is larger than all of us. It calls us on every voice, young and old, believers and unbelievers, the governors and the governed. The voices of history call us not only to remember, but also to act. And today, the action belongs to the youth. Dear friends, globally, young people under 30 represent more than half of the world's population. Yet, they make up only 2.6% of the parliamentarians worldwide. In many institutions, youth voices are still underrepresented, despite being the most connected, innovative, and diverse generation in history. If young leaders are to become architects of peaceful coexistence, we must change this imbalance. Yes, indeed, the youth are the majority of the population, but apart from that, they are the carriers of new energy and new ideas. But for this potential to shape reality, we must dare to change the frameworks we inherit. Humanity often finds itself moving forward with a clear destination. But now I'm afraid our point B is missing. We know we are leaving one point behind, but we are uncertain about where we're headed. This uncertainty is not just about institutions, it's about leadership. Who will guide these transitions, and will they do with wisdom and competence? Perhaps it's today's youth, brave, innovative, and connected, who can imagine the destination and give it shape. But how? Probably that means transforming our mindset and outdated concepts. As Miguel Angel Moratinos so powerfully reminded us, and I quote, "The time has come to shift the paradigms to positiveness and move from security to peace, from tolerance to respect of the other, from minorities to citizenship rights, from coexistence to living together peacefully, and from a dialogue to an alliance of commitment to peace." And I believe here lies our point B. And yet, even as we embrace new paradigms, we must remember that the future is not built by the young alone. It must stand on the wisdom of the generation before us. The historian Arnold Toynbee taught that the youth may see further, but only because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Yesterday, we heard from those giants, words of hope born in resilience, and words of warning shaped by the scars of conflict. They know the fragility of peace. They also know humanity's capacity to rebuild and reconcile. Intergenerational dialogue is essential. the wisdom of the elder and the energy of the youth must act as complementary strengths. But the question of leadership is not only political, it's also spiritual. As Charles Taylor noted in Maladies of Modernity, our age risks three distortions: egoism that forgets community, an instrumental mindset that prizes efficiency over meaning, and a freedom mistaken as absence of responsibility rather than a call to solidarity. Technology connects us, yet often leaves us lonely. Wealth has grown, but so have inequality and distrust. Without the anchoring force of spirituality, societies risk drifting, efficient in production, hollow in purpose. In this context, religion and spirituality are not obstacles, but remedies. They grounded us in compassion, responsibility, and shared moral direction. Dear friends, if the old social contract was between security and liberty, when liberty was sacrificed in exchange of security, our generation has entered into a new social contract between privacy and services. We are sacrificing privacy in return for convenience, efficiency, and endless digital services. But this trait is far more dangerous, for it does not merely touch our freedoms. This trait reshapes our very humanity. We are already living in a post-Westphalian era where the state no longer holds the monopoly in power and sovereignty. Instead, transnational corporations, algorithms, and networks shape the lives of billions, often beyond the reach of democratic accountability. And yet, we are so lethargic. We are sacrificing our freedom from fleeting pleasure, or as some might say, cheap dopamine. But allowing ourselves to be captives of the virtual world, we scroll endlessly, we're losing both power and meaning in the process. If we are surrendering ourselves to digital captivity, then the question is, how do we resist? Where do we gain direction? The answer, I believe, begins with education, but not education as we know it. We must dare to reinvent the education as a space of awakening, not conformity, and as a training of consciousness, not merely a competence. Education must equip the young not only with the skills for the labor market, but with courage to question, imagining to create, and moral compass to resist. We should nurture skepticism and question the things around us while seeking alternatives. These may mean dismantling obsolete systems, integrating philosophy, art, and spirituality back in the classroom, and placing as much value on wisdom as on information. If we want to overcome prejudice and learn to live in peace and harmony, the education must begin from earliest age, when hearts and minds are still open to compassion, curiosity, and respect. And beyond education, we must restore spirituality to the heart of our societies. In the absence of meaning, knowledge transforms into a mere assembly of mechanical processes, devoid of purpose and warmth. Similarly, without a sense of transcendence that elevates our understanding, the concept of freedom disintegrates into a hollow echo, leaving behind a void that often little but emptiness. Here, the role of religion is vital. I am afraid that European politicians should be frequently reminded that contemporary politics is in many ways secularized theology. Having that in mind, there is nothing wrong for politicians to learn from religious leaders, how to cultivate humility, how to speak to the soul, how to remind us that community is not a market, but a covenant. If our politics learned again to draw from the well of spirituality, then perhaps we could save not only democracies, but our very souls. And perhaps, in facing this crisis, we can learn again from Stoic philosophy, to master our desires, to focus on what is within our control, and to find freedom not in consumption, but in character. A revival of Stoicism could give us this discipline to resist digital captivity and courage to live with purpose. In the end, dear friends, I would like to quote one famous Macedonian, Delchev, whose cosmopolitan ideals transcended borders. And I quote, "I understood the world solely as a field for cultural competition among the peoples." His words reminded us that the true struggle of humanity should not be for domination, but for advancement of ideas, knowledge, and culture, and competition not of arms, but of wisdom, creativity, and progress. Or, as Saint Clement from Ohrid said 1,100 years ago, in everything we do, let us compete in goodness and good deeds. If we unite energy with spirituality, if we blend imagination with responsibility, then we will not only inherit the world, we will reshape it into a future of light, harmony, and shared purpose. The alternative to this, I'm afraid, is darkness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ivan Ivanov. I heard him speak challenge us to innovate, but to innovate from tradition. Some people think innovation is the opposite of tradition, but there was a beautiful conflation there where one connects the other. There was also a big challenge not to dominate, to use our power in another way. Okay, now we move from Macedonia to Egypt, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Zainab Sadiq Ali Mahmoud, who is the head of the PR service of the Grand Imam of the Al-Azhar of Egypt. The floor is yours.
Welcome, Your Excellency, Mr. Molina Shimbaev. Welcome, my dear friends and brothers and sisters from different religions and from different faiths and from different cultures. We gather today around the theme, Bridging Faith for Lasting Coexistence. Let me today to speak with my heart. It will not be like a formal speech. I hope that you will enjoy my story. I wanted to tell you this story of the Emerging Peacemakers Forum. Actually, it's very often when we meet someone for the first time, we used to make very big assumptions based on appearance, such as their face or their clothes. If you meet a Muslim woman wears a hijab like me, maybe people will say that she is a Muslim and she is a believer. And if a woman doesn't wear hijab and walks in a Muslim community, maybe people will say that she is not a Muslim and she is not a believer and she doesn't pray. And we think that we know the truth because we are only seeing the outside. And this is not true, of course, because we are only seeing the outside. And of course, this assumption sometimes be positive or sometimes be negative because it's shaped by our stereotypes and our incomplete information. So a few years ago, I organized an initiative called the Emerging Peacemakers Forum. This initiative was born from dialogue between East and West. This initiative was launched in 2015 by His Eminence Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmad al-Tayyib, who was dreaming to replace these conflicts with dialogue and peace. So after 5 rounds of dialogue in Geneva and Florence and Paris and Abu Dhabi, of course, and Cairo, His Eminence Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmad al-Tayyib, decided, and all the faith leaders decided to bring this vision to youth. And so, in July 2018, the first edition of the Emerging Peacemakers Forum took place at Cambridge University. Maybe more about 50 young peace builders from different religions, from different countries, from different backgrounds, came together and learned about the peace building and the leaderships. At the end of this program, they built a strong friendships. These friendships across all their boundaries. In the first edition, I remind a very unique moment. When I went to pray Friday prayer with my Muslim participants, our friends from other faiths wanted to join. Not to pray, of course, but to show us the respect. And that day I felt that the respect became more stronger than difference. And this is a really good message. You can see this picture when we are going to pray. So after 5 years later, exactly in 2023, the second edition of the Emerging Peacemakers Forum took place in Switzerland at Chateau de Bousset. This edition was supported by Muslim Council of Elders and cooperation between Roskilde Foundation and World Council of Churches. In this edition, we have applied for more than 1,000 applications from 75 countries, from different religious, only we were chosen 50 young peace builders to represent 24 nations and many faces. In this edition also, I can't forget that you can imagine with me how they are very different in religious, very different in culture, but they together do something amazing. They planted a tree. They planted an olive tree, and we together dug the soil, and we were also planting our trust and our hope. That day, this tree, it wasn't a tree. It was, for us, meaning a living symbol of peace. That it reminds us that it can grow when we together can take care of it. So I can tell you that we can have this dialogue. It will be like a tool for opening channels. So if we talk together in a good way, we can find a platform to collect us. And this collect, it will help us to understand others' belief. And when we find this, we can give it easy to young people to build a friendly community where everyone can feel in peace. I would like to share with you these 3 lessons I have learned from this journey. First, that dialogue must become action. Second, symbols give life to peace, like plant, tree. Youth can turn coexistence into reality. At the end, my message is very simple. Bridging faces is not a dream for tomorrow, but it's a responsibility for today. And we are, the youth, are that already proving that peace is possible because we are living it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zainab, and for telling your story, which is always really memorable because it's so authentic when it's personal. Now, in a minute, I know Mr. Ashimbayev needs to leave, but before he does, I wonder if we could see the results of the Mentimeter. And I'm just going to ask him if there are any surprises on the screen from the Mentimeter. Is it possible for the audience to see the Mentimeter as well as the leaders on the platform? Well, let me describe to you a sea of words with the 2 largest in the middle. Oh, here we have it. Kindness and compassion. Mr. Ashimbayev, are there any surprises there for you as you look at the qualities for the next generation of young leaders?
Compassion, kindness, 2 priorities, if I understand correctly, yeah? It's great. I am so happy to see that the young generation choose kindness and compassion as the main features, priorities for future religious leaders. Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your encouragement to us today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and for your affirmation of this forum. Now, it's a pleasure for me to introduce the 3rd speaker today, who is Abhishek Ghosh, Dean of the Faculty of the Somaiya Institute of Dharma Studies in India. You are very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable delegates, my friends, brothers and sisters. Today I was asked to represent a religion of more than 1.2 billion people, and I cannot honestly take that burden on myself. But I will say this, that bridging faiths for a sustainable future, especially considering the role of youth in peaceful coexistence, cannot happen unless we address the question of rapid technological changes happening right now that is reshaping the future of our planet. What will leadership coming from the youth look like in an age of blockchain technology, Web3, and God knows what is coming up? In this room, we have leaders who represent wisdom traditions that must be invoked as we reshape the future of our planet, because we have the power to guide the reshaping of the future of humanity. We all know that our lives are governed by algorithms held by a handful of technology companies in a particular region of the world. But the data that we consume every day and the data we feed in define what these algorithms will feed us back. Will we bring together, as our Mentimeter showed, a high priority on compassion and kindness, along with other qualities such as humility and integrity? Or will we let cheap dopamine, as one of our delegates said, dictate our future? The choice is with us, and the choice is here today. We are at an inflection point. As His Excellency mentioned, almost 120 million people around the world are currently displaced. This is alarming. More than 300 million people around the world every day are at the brink of extreme hunger. And unless we use these technologies that we have at our disposal today to reshape some of these questions that lead to such crises, what are we doing as leaders? From the Hindu tradition that I belong, we believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. In the very first time I had come to the Congress of World and Traditional Religions in 2012, I had mentioned a point that if your right hand is injured, your left hand doesn't say, serves you right. When your right hand is in pain, your left hand reaches out and holds it in compassion, in empathy. So now, how different people are on this planet, how much anger or resentment we have towards one another has to be set aside in this moment of pain, where we reach out to those in pain and say, you too are my family. As we engage technology to bring this world together as one family, I want to finish by saying there are 4 universal religious values that everybody could agree upon. The first is truth. In Sanskrit, we say Satyam Eva Jayate. This is the motto of the country I belong to, India, that truth at the end alone wins. If our algorithms, if our technologies aren't grounded in it, if we use technology to perpetuate an age that we unfortunately find ourselves in, a post-truth era, we are looking at a very bleak future. The second is the foundational principle on which the modern Indian nation state is built on, which Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi represented on behalf of India to the whole world, ahimsa, which is nonviolence and compassion. If our systems do not reflect that, we are looking at the beginning of the end of humanity. The third is resilience, tapas. Unless we have focused effort in an era that I often say is affected by weapons of mass distractions, we are doomed. But the most important is cleanliness. We are looking at a future that desperately needs a sustainable way of consumption grounded in clean energy, and if the leaders of the various religions that are gathered here today do not consider that as a guiding principle, we are not looking at a planet that we see here today. We want to leave this planet in a better shape than we found it, and the onus is in our hands today, and technology can help us get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abhishek. Weapons of mass distraction. Beware. I love that. Our fourth speaker this morning, who's just come to the platform and replaced the Speaker of the Senate, we have high expectations now, is Zarina Kadubayeva. She is a Catholic theologian from the International Center for Interfaith and Interreligious Dialogue. Zarina, thank you.
Друзья, коллеги, уважаемые гости, я очень рада видеть здесь людей со всех уголков мира. Сегодня мы собрались здесь, потому что верим в нечто большее, в мир, в силу солидарности и наше общее достоинство. Для меня большая честь быть частью этого форума и приветствовать вас здесь, в Казахстане. В наше время, когда мир сталкивается со множеством вызовов и разногласий, особенно важно помнить, что мир – это не только цель, это путь. Путь, который мы выбираем каждый день через свои поступки и решения. Подлинное стремление к миру не появляется из ниоткуда. Оно всегда имеет глубокие корни, уходящие в культурные и религиозные традиции. Мир как ценность живет не только в священных текстах, но и в моральных установках старшего поколения, которое учит нас слушать, уважать и принимать. Однако именно молодежи предстоит выбрать, каким будет язык будущего – языком конфронтации или языком примирения. Сегодняшний конфликт – это не только события на карте или сюжеты из новостных сводок. За ними суровая реальность человеческих судеб и боль миллионов. Даже находясь далеко от очагов напряженности, мы все равно ощущаем их отголоски в наших восприятиях друг друга, себя самих и всего окружающего мира. Эту ситуацию нельзя исцелить лишь путем политических решений. Миру нужно духовное преображение, ведущее к истинному диалогу и примирению. Размышляя над тем, что лежит в основе построения мира и сотрудничества, я выделила 3 составляющие. Способность и, самое главное, готовность слушать, принимать и прощать. Путь к миру не начинается с громких слов, а с простого, но порой трудного умения слушать. Ведь нам нередко тяжело понять тех, кто отличает нас, от нашего мировоззрения и от нашей веры. Поэтому вместо того, чтобы по-настоящему услышать другого человека, мы все чаще выбираем более легкий путь. Игнорируем, блокируем или отменяем его. Но какую цену мы платим как общество, когда вместо диалога выбираем изоляцию и отчуждение. Есть мудрое изречение: враг – это тот, чью историю ты не услышал. Мужество слушать помогает увидеть в человеке прежде всего личность со своей слабостью и силой, с надеждами, страхами и переживаниями, которые так близки нам по сути. И как же важно быть готовыми увидеть мир глазами другого, даже если его взгляды отличаются от наших личных убеждений и веры. Это помогает нам преодолеть собственное эго и выйти за рамки ложных стереотипов и привычных представлений. Диалог становится возможным, когда мы отказываемся от языка вражды и антикультуры отмены и перестаем воспринимать инаковость как угрозу. Истинное миротворчество начинается с открытости к переменам внутри себя. Это отражено в древнегреческом понятии метанои, которое означает не просто изменение мнения, а полное преобразование мышления, взглядов, поведения и отношения к жизни. Метаноя, как внутренняя трансформация, ведет к миру, помогая открыть истинную глубину как собственной, так и чужой человеческой идентичности. Преодолеть убеждения, найти точки соприкосновения и наладить взаимопонимание в семье, обществе и прежде всего в нас самих. Таким образом, метаноя выходит за рамки человеческого опыта личного и становится мощным социальным процессом. Она способствует формированию более справедливого, открытого и сострадательного общества. Именно в этом контексте проявляется искусство диалога и единения, умение сооружать мосты, которое с древнеримских времен считалось высшим мастерством. Недаром титул верховного жреца в Риме «Pontifex Maximus» буквально переводится как «великий строитель мостов». Этот титул, символизирующий власть и призвание объединять, сохранился и по сей день и принадлежит Папе Римскому. Однако самые важные мосты строятся не из камня и из бетона, а из доверия и прощения. Именно прощение восстанавливает разорванные отношения и исцеляет глубокие раны. Мы должны верить, что мир, как и человеческие отношения, может быть возрожден из руин и пепла войны, а новая жизнь даже из того, что кажется безжизненным. Эта истина отражена не только в священных писаниях, но и в наших сердцах, когда мы выбираем прощение и надежду. Как говорится в Коране, в суре Ар-Рум 30:50, «Посмотри на следы милости Аллаха, как Он оживляет землю после ее смерти. Воистину Он оживит и мертвых». Также в книге пророка Иезекииля 37:5-6 из Библии мы читаем: «Так говорит Господь Бог костям сим: вот, я введу дух в вас и оживете». Прощение – это не чувство, это всегда выбор в пользу добра и мира. Завершая свое выступление, я хочу выразить искреннюю надежду, что этот форум вдохновит каждого из нас задуматься, какой шаг к миру я могу сделать уже сегодня. Может быть, это звонок тому, с кем я в ссоре, или сообщение, что я оставил без ответа, или просьба, которую я проигнорировал. Давайте зададим себе этот вопрос: что мы можем сделать сейчас, чтобы приблизить тот мир, который начинается с каждого из нас. Благодарю вас за внимание и за ваше стремление быть частью этого мира.
Zarina, thank you so much. And in particular, I just want to thank you for the challenge at the very end, that if we are committed to the path of peace, we make a personal step with somebody we know where we need to mend something. Thank you for that. Friends, we're coming to our fifth speaker. I just want to flag that after our fifth speaker, I'm going to invite you to turn to your neighbor to speak about something you've heard that has struck you as important this morning, just in case you want to think about that. Our fifth speaker is Abdulatif Youssef Amutlak. He is the Under-Secretary General for Legal Affairs from the Muslim World League. Abdullah, thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين نبينا محمد عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. تحية طيبة أحملها إليكم من ربوع مكة المكرمة. أيها الحضور الكريم، ينعقد هذا المنتدى في مرحلة فارقة من تاريخ عالمنا، حيث يشهد النظام الدولي متغيرات كبرى على المستويين الاقتصادي والسياسي. فقد عصفت العولمة الاقتصادية بأزمة عابرة للقارات أخذت تبشر بملامح نظام عالمي جديد، نرجو صادقين ألا يكون مجرد تكرار لنماذج سابقة. أيها الحضور الكريم، إن تجارب الماضي وما خلفته من آلام تضعنا اليوم أمام مسؤولية مشتركة لتأسيس حقبة جديدة تقوم على ركائز العدالة والاحترام والمساواة بين شعوب العالم ودوله. حقبة تستفيد من الإيجابيات التي أنجبتها تلك المراحل السابقة، وتستثمرها في تطوير العلاقات الدولية، وتصوغ منها روابط إنسانية أكثر رسوخاً بين الأمم والمجتمعات. ونحن في رابطة العالم الإسلامي إذ نتابع بقلق تصاعد الصراعات في عالمنا، فإننا نعبر عن توق الشعوب المسلمة إلى السلام، وعن إدانتهم الواضحة لكل صور العنف والإرهاب أياً كان مصدره أو دافعه. ونؤكد أن القيم العادلة يجب أن تسود في المجتمعات الإنسانية، وأن يكون الحوار هو السبيل الأمثل الذي يلجأ إليه الفرقاء في مواجهة تعقيدات الواقع وحل مشكلاته. أيها الحضور الكريم، إن مئات الملايين من شباب القرن 21 قد سئموا من استدعاء خلافات الماضي وتجرع آلامه، وهم يتطلعون إلى بناء واقع جديد يستلهم من التاريخ دروسه الإيجابية، ويشيد مستقبلاً زاخراً بالأمل، مستقبل يسوده حسن الجوار وتصان فيه كرامة الإنسان وتحترم حقوقه. وإننا في رابطة العالم الإسلامي قد دعونا وما زلنا ندعو بلا كلل إلى ترسيخ الوئام المجتمعي في الأوطان، ومعالجة الاختلافات الدينية والثقافية بروح من الحكمة والعقلانية تتسامى فوق المصالح الضيقة والذكريات السلبية، وقياماً بدور الرابطة تجاه الشباب المسلم، فقد دعت في وثيقة مكة المكرمة إلى تعزيز هوية الشباب المسلم بركائزها الخمس: الدين والوطن والثقافة والتاريخ واللغة، وحمايتها من محاولة الإقصاء أو الذوبان المتعمد وغير المتعمد. ودعا البند 27 إلى حماية الشباب من أفكار الصدام الحضاري والتعبئة السلبية والتطرف الفكري بتشدده أو عنفه أو إرهابه، مع تقوية مهارات تواصل الشباب مع الآخرين بوعي يعتمد آفاق الإسلام الواسعة وأدبه المؤلف للقلوب، ولا سيما قيم التسامح والتعايش بسلام ووئام. ثم جاءت بعدها وثيقة بناء الجسور بين المذاهب الإسلامية في عام 1445 مستصحبة مضامين وثيقة مكة المكرمة. وقد حظيت هاتان الوثيقتان بإجماع إسلامي وتأييد عالمي، ولقيتا قبولا واسعا. أيها الجمع الكريم، هذا المنتدى يلتقي مع الجهود المخلصة الساعية إلى استعادة نماذج التعايش الإيجابي بين مكونات عالمنا المختلفة والمتنوعة، حيث تناغمت عبر التاريخ تلك المكونات الدينية والعرقية بتعدديتها الواسعة، لتقدم صوراً ملهمة في الوفاق والوئام. ولعل ما تشهده كازاخستان يمثل واحدة من أبرز التجارب المعاصرة في هذا المجال، إذ اتسعت دائرة حقوق المواطنة لتشمل مختلف القوميات والأديان التي تعيش على أرضها، دون أن يشكل هذا التنوع عائقاً أمام وحدة المجتمع الكازاخي وتعاونه في بناء وطن مؤثر على الدول. وهكذا تقدم كازاخستان نموذجاً يترفع عن تمزيق الأوطان بذريعة الاستعلاء الموهوم لبعض الأعراق أو الأجناس، وتطرح في المقابل صورة حضارية لوطن متماسك يقوم على الاحترام والتكامل. وفي الختام أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى جمهورية كازاخستان على تلك المؤتمرات وعلى رعايتها لمؤتمر القادة الدينيين الشباب، والشكر لكم جميعاً، والله نسأل لنا ولكم التوفيق. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you so much, Abdelatif, for your commitment to dialogue, your urge that all of us commit to dialogue, and that for dialogue we strengthen our communication skills. Now, thank you to each of our 5 speakers. I'm sure they were nervous and they were brilliant, right? So let's thank you again. And now it's time for others to contribute. First of all, I'd like you to turn to a neighbor. I'd like you to find a neighbor that you don't already know, if that's possible, and tell them something you've heard this morning that was really important to you. Just for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to ask our panel here on the platform to open our discussion by voicing something new that you've heard from one another this morning. And then we'll have, we've got 20, 25 minutes or so for question and answer and discussion. Does that sound good? Okay, turn to your neighbor. 2 minutes. What did you hear this morning that really mattered? Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you've had a chance to each say something to the other. And I'm now going to ask our panel on the platform to tell us something important that they've heard from one of their fellow members on the platform, and to do so very briefly so that then we can move to question and answer. Let me start at the beginning, well, nearest me, with Ivan.
Can we just get back to the screen with the keywords? Is there a chance to do so?
I will ask them to find the Mentimeter keywords. If you could put them on the screen, that would be great. So while we're waiting, let me move to Zainab to invite her to speak to something you've heard. Very brief, please. Your microphone.
Actually, I felt that we all of us, everyone have his story, and I have my story. But we to know the truth about everyone, the truth it's like in standing in the middle. So we just need everyone of us to go forward, step forward to the truth. I have to go forward the step, and the other go forward to the step also. Then we can get in the same platform. We don't need to focus on the difference. We don't need to focus to the conflicts. We just have many of shared values to connect together.
Thank you, Zainab. We have to take the risk of making the first step. Now, back to Ivan, and we've got the
Yes. There was one
qualities.
key word that repeated frequently that I cannot see it here, and that disturbed me a little bit, and that's respect. I see in the heart of the very chart the word tolerance, and I don't like tolerance, because to tolerate someone means I don't like you, but I will tolerate you. You're an object, you're not a subject, you know. I just like you exist, you're here, I tolerate you, but I don't like you. And what is a higher philosophy than tolerance is respect. And I don't see the word respect here, because respect is a two-way street. I come from Macedonia, the land called microcosmos of diversity. And you know, based on our heritage of the millet system from the Ottoman Empire that went for 5 centuries, we learned how to respect, although, as Kimlicka said, millet system was not, it was federation of theocracies. However, we learned how to keep our doors open. There's one word that we use, komshi kapicik, you know, the front door was always closed, but the small door was always open between the neighbors. So respect means open doors. Tolerance is a negative tendency, and I would like next time to see the word respect here. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing it.
Unfortunately, you didn't participate in the Mentimeter, so there we are. Okay, Zarina, do you have a comment?
Well, I heard, I think the important statement was that my fellow said that we need to give more freedom to our youth, because sometimes as we as humankind, because sometimes we think, elder generation want like to control the younger generation. So we need to give more freedom to them to be as they are.
Sometimes that's a risk for the older ones to let the youth, I think. Now, Abhishek.
I really like the idea of metanoia, in the sense that, you know, the older we grow, we get more fixed in our ideas and our habits, but keeping an open mind, and that takes humility, you know, was the one idea that really struck out to me. That as leaders, we think that we have to control and, you know, we have our own ways of thinking, but what's coming up in the future may be brighter, better than what we have.
We have to be open to change. No, thank you. And Abdul Latif.
حقيقة ما ذكر كله جميل، ولكن ما لفت انتباهي هو أننا يجب أن نسعى إلى بناء الجسور ومدها، لا بناء الحواجز. وإن كان من كلمة للقادة الدينيين الشباب، فعلينا أن نتحلى بالصبر والحكمة، وأن لا نستعجل النتائج، وأن نستلهم من التجارب السابقة. شكراً.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, the floor is open to those of you who wish to speak. There are 2 microphones, I think, at the front. Again, I want to say, if you are young, you are the most welcome at the microphone, and I want to ask the older generation to hold back so that we hear younger voices first. If there is space afterwards, of course, older people are welcome. I would also ask you to be brief, and we'll take 2 or 3 questions at once, and then I'm going to invite the panel to respond briefly as they wish. Please come to the microphone,
Good morning.
and you can queue up if need be. Good morning.
Let me present in Kazakh. Қазақстанға қош келдіңіздер, құрметті қонақтар. So I have one more word to add to the list. Deeds or action. Deeds. And a few more questions on the topic of the day to the speakers and to all the participants of the forum. So one of them is a synergy for the future. We may ask ourselves, how can we as young people better promote and model collaboration in practice rather than competition in societies that seem to promote the opposite? The second one, if technical and moral education of children is vital to ensure the capacity of the next generation, what can religious leaders do to ensure that young girls have equal access to such education? The next question is, how capable will next generations be of making choices themselves and helping others to make choices without harming the environment? How capable will they be of increasing conscious collective care for the natural resources? And the last question, I understand that today here all the young leaders are ready and able to make significant contributions to the society. So what advice should all of us give to the leaders of world and traditional religions that will help them to further enable young people to do so? Thank you for the questions. These are open-ended questions for reflection for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting 4 questions from one person, but they are very welcome questions. Is there another who'd like to speak before we invite the panel to respond? Don't be shy. Here we go. Thank you.
Okay, so pardon me for working on my PhD research. I'm curious how you deal with texts or traditions in your religion that are at odds with modern values or sensibilities. So when you have a clash between the wisdom of the elders and what you feel as young leaders.
Thank you very much. Is there one other person who'd like to come to the microphone? You're welcome. We'll have this one and then we'll respond and then we'll go around again.
Good morning.
Do tell us where you're from, because it's very helpful, I think,
Actually,
for context.
we're from Thailand. I'm from Thailand. I'm from Buddhist Fellowship of Buddhist Youth.
Thank you.
I work for the youth activities for the International Buddhists. Actually, we learn a lot about international. I think more than half of countries here, and more than all of belief in over the world is here. We learn from UNESCO, we learn from many international forums that for the new world, for the new generation, we try to find the words common goods for all the believed. But how, as you are the leaders of the all believed, all the faiths, how can we find the common goods to live together peacefully? And second, nowadays, for the young people, we talk about generation. For me, I'm not sure whether I'm generation X or Y or Alpha. No. We have all many generations, and the way they learn always different. The way they believe also different. As religious leaders, how can we connect with them? Because they are our futures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to invite the panel to jump in on any question you may wish, and I will prompt anything that gets missed. 1 each, maximum. I can see Abhishek is ready.
So to the question on how do we balance the wisdom of the elders with what we have today, I think the things that appear to be contradictory are there because in their time it made sense. So to be able to see things in their historical context and the logic of why they did what they did, and then apply the same principles here today. So the applications might look different, but the principles remain the same. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Abhishek. Who else would like to go? Ivan.
Yeah, sure. I think we should build a system based on 3 principles. Meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. We lack honest approach in today's world. I don't believe that leaders among themselves are honest, among ourselves. I lack that. And I mentioned respect, because I was born in the city of Skopje, the hometown of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was born in the city center, and she was surrounded by an Orthodox church, Catholic parish, synagogue, and a mosque, just 100 meters from her house. And she did not learn to tolerate them, she learned to respect them. That's why I emphasized on that. So I believe with these 3 principles, based on mutual respect, not to tolerate, but to love each other, we'll find our way out.
Thank you. Who else would like to go? Zainab?
Okay. I would like also to comment about the question of how can we see the religion, because we are beliefs, how can we deal with our modern values in our society? I feel that the religion, it's sent by Allah, so of course in the religions we have the modern values, but it's about how can we understand these values. Sometimes we misunderstand these values, and this, from this the conflicts came. So as we are the young leaders, I think it's not our mission to just focus on the conflicts and focus on the different things. We just need to find how when we are talking with the others, we have to find the platform that can collect us, not to separate us.
Thank you very much. As Zainab was talking, I was thinking, we haven't had anyone address yet the issue about gender and access to education for girls. Would anyone, male or female on this platform, like to address that question?
Okay, now I am responsibility in a very important place at Al-Azhar Sharif, because I am working with His Eminence Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. As a first young lady in his office, it was never happened before that to empower a lady in this religious, a big religious and international religious institution. So it's for me, it's a very responsibility that I will be like a model for some Muslim young persons. So it's also very honored because when I work with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, I learned so much, because he is for me like an idol religious. So it's very amazing to can see how Grand Imam say these words, that how to should the leaders empower the young women, and also you can see that reflect on within his work.
Yeah, thank you, Zainab. There was a question about texts, when the younger generation read them differently to the older generation. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on that? Abdulatif or Zarina? Is it relevant in your context, perhaps? Zarina.
Thank you. Well, I think it's very important actually to read the text which we have through the principles of good and evil. And they don't change, they're universal. So for example, when we face nowadays the conflicts, the clash of, like, say, generations, actually there is a way when we try to understand the language of new generation through their perspective, but respecting their view. It doesn't mean that we accept it, for example, but our mission is to show that everything they see or do or perceive, they must to check, let's say, with those principles, because the principles of evil and good, they don't change, and they are they're reflected in the sacred texts, for example, and they preserve it through the centuries. They don't change. That's why if nowadays we see how, for example, new generation want to to read it through another lens, like modern lens, we need to remind them that these values do not change. The times change, people maybe too, the fashion change, the trends change, but those values do not change. So if you see something new, for example, you always have to address to those values that are in those sacred texts.
The context changes, but the values don't.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over at the far end, does anyone else want to add anything to any of the questions? Let's have another round of questions then. I can see 2 hands over there. Can I just say, at the moment we've had questions from men. Can I encourage women to come forward? Tremendous. And then we'll come to others over there.
Хайрлы күн. У меня будет не вопрос, наверное. Я хочу просто то, что во мне вот откликнулось на этой встрече, сказать, что я вдохновилась, это, наверное, ничего не сказать. Я представляю гражданское общество Казахстана, гордо представляю республиканское общественное объединение «Синемем Булашак», миссией которой является повышение гражданской ответственности, гражданской осознанности через формирование культуры осознанного родительства. То есть мы инструмент родительства берем как архиважный институт формирования образа будущих граждан. Но во мне откликнулось, я не буду погружаться именно в нашу миссию, нашу деятельность, во мне откликнулись качества опросника, которые вы сегодня провели в первую половину дня. Допустим, к примеру, доктринальными принципами нашей организации является то, что мы вне религии, вне политики, вне языка. Мы за общечеловеческие ценности, потому что они универсальны во всем мире. То, что добро и зло, они универсальны для любых конфессий. Уважение, почитание взрослых универсально во всех конфессиях. И мы в массы несем такой месседж «Тиктлер ту кутереда, тиксиздер шу кутереда». Это не прямой перевод. Для нас, казахов, тиктелек в традиционном понимании это была династийность. А мы, как гражданское общество, через тиктелер несем качество благородного человека. И ту, это флаг переводится, но мы его интерпретировали, адаптировали как символ. Неси как символ, знамя во имя благородства, процветания своей страны, своей нации, своего ребенка, своего будущего. Вот в качестве ремарки то, что мне откликнулся опросник, проявляться в благородстве. Рахмет.
Thank you. I can see that's been well received. Other questions? We'll have one here and then one over there, and then we'll come back to the panel. Thank you.
Всех приветствую. Меня зовут Асхат. Я являюсь одним из основателей организации, которая на основе казахских традиций Асар и Уме помогает различным категориям, различным представителям разных конфессий, национальностей в предоставлении жилья, где мы, повторюсь, не делим людей на конфессии и национальности. И мы испробовали один инструмент в близлежащих государствах с нашими соседями в первую очередь. И я хотел уточнить, возможно ли этот инструмент применить также и в странах, которые представляют наши гости, спикеры, также другие гости, которые здесь сегодня в Астане. Всем добро пожаловать. Хотел поделиться этим инструментом. Мы в Кыргызстане, в Узбекистане и еще в ряде стран.
Please be quick.
Да, извиняюсь, sorry. Реализовывали добро вместе с общественными организациями различных стран, ездя туда и приглашая их сюда обратно. То есть наши организации казахстанские помогают решать социальные проблемы в соседних странах. Их общественные организации приезжают и творят добро вместе с нами в Казахстане. Возможно ли это организовать вместе с нашими гостями, спикерами и другими гостями, которые сегодня здесь в Казахстане? Спасибо большое.
Thank you. Yes. And our last question before the break.
One question. Хочу всех поприветствовать и поблагодарить от Общества сознания Кришны что есть возможность поучаствовать и задать вопросы спикерам. У меня всего лишь один вопрос. Тоже как инструмент общности, да, это творчество. Да, все народы знакомы с этим инструментом. Я хотел бы узнать у вас, дорогие, да, присутствующие, как вы смотрите на то явление, как межконфессиональное творчество. Я расскажу маленький опыт, что я однажды увидел в интернете, как выступали оперные певцы и исполняли Аве Марию, да, и молитвы, мусульманские молитвы. Это было синхронно, было очень вместе, как бы совместно, под одну музыку. И лично для меня и для тех, кому я это показывал, это вызывало очень возвышенные чувства. Я хотел бы узнать у вас, уважаемые старшие, как вы смотрите на такое совместное творчество межконфессиональное, как инструмент объединения? Спасибо большое.
Fascinating question. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Abhishek, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I think any form of interfaith engagement, like we saw peace leaders planting trees, right? That brings people together, is wonderful. Art, music, drama, theater are common to all of human existence, and if we can bridge cultures doing that without offending anybody's sensibilities, I think it's a great way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Anyone want to speak about the tools in other countries? Ivan, I can see that you're longing to answer one of the questions.
Yes, I just wanted to add something briefly, and because I believe in cultural diplomacy, and I believe that in this interfaith dialogue, because in Macedonia we have a monastery that serves as a prayer room for Christians and Muslims at the same time, in the same chamber. It's a very unique example. But what I just wanted to ask, what was previously mentioned, is that, there is something that exists among the religious leaders that unfortunately politicians are lacking, and that's the moral. And I believe that after Machiavelli, unfortunately, politicians don't practice moral too often, But even Aristotle said that what is moral and ethics for the individuals, that should be politics to the community. So I believe that our future lies with politicians that practice more often moral virtues. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, in just a moment, it's time for our coffee break. And before we have our coffee break, we are going to take a photograph. Everybody is welcome in this photograph. We are inclusive and we will gather on the stage. But first, I just want to let you know that we are planning to issue a communiqué from the Forum of Young Leaders later this morning. It has been drafted already by others, and in particular, it will highlight the important role of youth, as we've heard this morning, strengthening peace and dialogue, and it outlines key areas of focus. There are 5. And again, I would love your contribution to ordering those 5 priorities. The first priority is about developing your dialogue platforms, platforms for exchange. The second one is about promoting shared values, spiritual values, moral values. The third is about supporting social initiatives, that is to say, projects. The fourth is about using technology. And the fifth is about encouraging international cooperation and collaboration. Which of those is the most important? And your answer to that question will impact the way in which the communiqué is published at lunchtime. Is that clear? So you can see it's the same QR code as before. You can see the 5 priorities. Please tell us which one you think is most important, and that will collectively put them in the right order for us. We'll read them to you in more detail at the end. You can keep going with that during the coffee break. Oh, you need the QR code. I wonder if after the photograph, if we could put the QR code back on the screen. Okay, let me invite everyone up to the platform, to these steps, and we'll have one great photo. Let me invite speakers to be on the front row, including the speakers who are speaking after coffee. Thank you.